Okay, boys, we're now about
Atlas V will
10
deliver
minutes away
SES-20 and 21
for the
to a near
launch of the
geosynchronous
Atlas
orbit.
V carrying
Here's how we'll get there.
SES-20 and 21. This is the mission profile for today's launch.
Generating a combined liftoff thrust of nearly 1.8 million pounds, the RD-180 engine and 3 solid rocket boosters ignite to start ULA's Atlas V rocket on its trip to orbit. Shortly after liftoff, the 1.7 million pound Atlas begins a pitchover to attain the proper flight path while minimizing the dynamic pressure the rocket experiences during flight. Within the first minute of flight, Atlas reaches Mach 1, the speed of sound.
Yeah, this thing jumps off the
Within
pad
the
with
next
those
2
solid
minutes
motors
of
on
first
board.
stage flight, the Atlas V rocket will jettison all 3 GEM 63 solid rocket boosters and will then more than double its velocity.
Those solid rocket
Once
motors
the rocket is flying
do the
above
majority of the
densest part Earth's
liftoff,
atmosphere,
or
the payload
do the
fair
majority of the power off the pad. However, once they're empty, they're just excess weight, so you're gonna dump them. Same with the first stage. Once that booster is empty on the first, or once the first stage is empty, you're just gonna separate it. That's why you have staging. Now, light that second stage engine up.
Performed 3 engine burns. Fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, the first burn takes the spacecraft to a LEO parking orbit. Following the first main engine cutoff, Centaur performs a short settled coast and turns to the second burn attitude. The second burn powers the trajectory onto a geosynchronous transfer orbit with a maximum altitude in the GeoBelt. Following a multi-hour coast, Centaur comes alive for a final burn as it prepares to release
So
the
we're now
SES
about 10 minutes away. Geostationary orbits,
geosynchronous orbit.
geostationary or geosynchronous orbits are really interesting because essentially by orbiting at the right place or at the right speed and the right altitude, your satellite will essentially stay over the same spot no matter what. These satellites will always be hanging over Indonesia, no matter what orbits. Well, they do need to do some. they need to do some placekeeping to make sure that they don't drift over time due to orbital perturbations and the like. But you can see over time that little sine wave right there was being blocked by my camera. That little sine wave right there, that's essentially what its orbital track will look like. It will never move outside of these 2 lines. I mean, the yellow would be one satellite, the purple would be the other, and they'll always be hanging over that Eurasian shelf or that Indonesian shelf.
Dedicated in memory of Henry Gines and James W. McAnally. National Defense by helping with the assembly of Tomahawk cruise missiles, and later, the very successful ACES-2 ejection seat program. Henry later moved on to supporting missions on Delta and Atlas rockets as an accomplished mechanical technician. Outside of work, Henry was passionate about sports, spending his time coaching softball and football teams of all ages. Henry was loyal, dedicated, and always joined his team with a great attitude. He will continue to be missed by his friends and family and his co-workers. Jim McAnally served as president of Martin Marietta Astronautics and later Lockheed Martin during the acquisition of the Atlas and Titan Centaur programs from General Dynamics. Under Jim's leadership, the Atlas and Centaur production lines were moved from San Diego to Denver. International Launch Services was created to sell commercial Atlas rockets. The Atlas V was developed, and his team successfully negotiated the first RD-180 engine. Jim put his heart and soul into his work, and his legacy lives on in today's Atlas V.
So International Launch Services was a short-lived company during the beginning, at the end stages of the Atlas III and the beginning of the Atlas V. Oh, we'll talk about that after this. This is
Engineers and managers are
pretty
pulled for system
important. This is
status
the
and
go, no-go
readiness to
poll.
proceed.
Coming up in
This
a
is the
moment
final
here.
status check for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, spacecraft, and the U.S. Space Force Eastern Range. The vehicle system readiness pool includes electrical systems, hydraulics, pneumatics, propulsion systems, flight control, and propellants. Let's listen in as Ron McKee performs the final polling.
Okay. Should be coming up any moment. Once this is done, they'll then
L minus 7 minutes.
get ready to
Status
release
check
that
to
2 minutes
proceed with
4-minute
thermal
count.
count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Pass gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Operation support.
Go.
COM. Umbilicals.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Red light monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
Fuel air safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to
Range
proceed.
agreed.
Launch director.
You have
Permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC verified T0 set for 21:360.
Verified.
Okay, so you just heard that go, no go poll there. They poll every station, make sure that everything is clear to proceed. Now standing by for the T-minus 4-minute hold to be released. What I'm saying is the International Launch Services was a short-lived company that was a joint venture between MPO and Nergamash and I believe it was Boeing at the time, or Lockheed Martin at the time. It wasn't yet United Launch Alliance because they didn't exist. And it was essentially one company that would negotiate with, and if your payload was too big to fit on Atlas 3 and later Atlas 5, you could then launch it on the MPO and Nergamash built Proton rocket out of Kazakhstan. Again. Jesse Gonzalez, they said, will be doing the will be doing the launch ascent data here today. This is a view from the press site. You can see some members of the press there. And you can see all those cameras slipping in. If I know where to look, I don't know what yet, where the people are today, but there's probably some, you can probably spot NASA space flight out there. And I'm sure some other groups that do pictures. A lot of other photographers, John Krause, Trevor Mallman, out there as well. So that white stuff you see on that first stage, which is normally that bronze color, that's frost from the liquid oxygen forming on the outside. Essentially, think of it as that condensation that you get on the outside of your window during winter. Just a little bit thicker than that. If your finger wouldn't freeze
Atlas
off,
mission
you could
control at
probably...
T-minus 4 minutes and holding. We anticipate releasing the hold in just a few moments.
Okay.
Will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting. 3, 2, 1, mark.
And the 4-minute hold is released. We're now counting.
T-minus 3 minutes and 55 seconds.
Ground pyros enabled.
The ground pyrotechnics are enabled. Those allow for the hold down bolts to be separated, which would actually allow the vehicle to release off of the pad. Currently being held down by on a pole.
The countdown clock
on the
has
vehicle.
resumed, and we are go for launch at 5:36 p.m. Eastern.
The vehicle has a little plate,
Liftoff
actually.
approaching. We're going to raise the volume
There's
on our
a
launch team so you can
plate
hear
on the
final
launch
reps taking
mount
place.
that's nice and thick. There's a pole that sticks through that plate, and then around that is a giant bolt about the size of a basketball, and it's a frangible nut. That bolt is made to pyrotechnically discharge. So essentially there's 2 strings of det cord that run through it, and then you fire those det charges, which then release the bolt, allowing for the vehicle to now lift off the pad. That's the most common ways.
T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Op number 057.
Don't know what that means. That's the most common way.
LO2 topping.
Okay, so they're currently topping off the liquid oxygen. Tanks are coming up to flight pressure.
Internal.
The flight termination systems are now armed and internal. The vehicle now has control over its flight termination. That's the most common way that hold down points are done. There's other ways to do it. SpaceX does it differently. I know SLS does it differently. The shuttle actually did this. I don't know what they do over in China or Russia. I'd imagine it's much of the same because pyrotechnic bolts are very easy. A drone shot, awesome. And see how low the winds are today, just how little white caps there are out in the ocean.
159.
T-minus 1 minute and 59
Vehicle
seconds.
internal. 155.
Vehicle has
Log vehicle
transitioned to internal
restart.
power. Or rather, the flight computer is
150.
internal.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
So the Centaur, that second stage, is currently securing its tanks, locking them up, getting them ready for flight.
140.
Launch enabled.
137.
Launch has been enabled. The vehicle is now ready for launch.
FPS armed.
The flight termination system is now armed and active.
T-minus 90 seconds. The launch vehicle, payload, ground systems, and eastern range are go for launch.
120.
1 minute, 20
OTU
seconds.
is armed.
FCS count started.
115.
Reduce ECS for launch.
Roger.
Don't know what
110.
that means.
Vent valves blocked.
Vent valves are closed. Tank pressures are rising for flight. You want to close off those vents
T-minus
before
1
flight
minute.
T-minus 1 minute.
so that you don't lose any of that
Range
liquid.
green.
There you go. The range is green and ready to support today's mission. Minus 50 seconds. The Atlas V is a beautiful vehicle.
40
God,
seconds.
look at how little
Stable at step 3.
water movement there is out on the ocean today. It's a beautiful day out in Florida. Minus 30 seconds.
28.
Verify ECS reduced for launch.
Verified. 25.
Don't know what ECS
Status
means.
check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Centaur.
Go
Go
SES.
SES.
Yes. Okay. Getting ready for liftoff now. That giant ball that you see on your
10,
screen is what holds
9,
all that liquid
8,
hydrogen for that second
7,
stage.
6, 5, 4.
There's that water deluge.
2, 1.
Ignition of the RD-180s
Liftoff.
and a
the United
liftoff
Launch
of
Alliance
Atlas
Atlas
V.
rocket carrying SES-20 and 21 for SES, the leading provider of global
Look at
content
that.
connectivity solutions.
The vehicle slewing downrange a little bit and pitching downrange as well. Beautiful view from the press site, despite all those clouds. You can see as it does that slew off the pad due to the asymmetric layout of those solid motors.
180 is throttled back as expected.
Oh, listen to that sound.
You're hearing the voice of Jesse Gonzalez providing launch vehicle ascent data.
And 40 seconds into flight.
There's that beautiful onboard shot showing one solid rocket motor on this side. The other side has two solid motors on it.
Passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
You have maximum aerodynamic pressure, and the vehicle is supersonic. Look at
And
that.
the RD-180 is now throttling back up as expected. Engine response continues to look good.
The engine is throttling up now out of that
Passing
throttle
into
bucket for
flight,
maximum
continuing to
max
see,
Q.
good SRB chamber pressures. RD-180 pump speed and fuel injector pressures are responding well to demands on the engine.
Okay, everything's
Vehicle's
sounding
continuing
good.
Right down the middle of the range track.
Perfect. You essentially have a little corridor that the vehicle wants to stay down, and it's staying perfectly within that corridor. You can see the paint starting to chip off the top of that solid rocket motor there, those little brown marks forming. That's exposing that raw metal as that paint is starting to chip due to how fast it's going. Crazy. Standing by now for flame out.
3 SRBs.
Hey, we have flame out on the SRBs.
Jettison in about 20 seconds.
Standing by now for the jettison. They hold on to those SRBs for a little bit, just because they do not want to. If they dump them right now, they're going to land fairly close to the Cape. And by holding on to them for just that little bit longer, they're able to ensure that they don't land anywhere near the Cape, and they're a further downrange distance. There you go. Beautiful jettison of those SRBs. Vehicle now transition to open
And we
loop
have good
guidance.
jettison of all 3 SRBs.
Vehicle's
gone to closed loop guidance.
to close loop guidance.
And the RD-180 is
Vehicle
throttled
now
down
is
as expected.
controlling as
Engine
it
response
should.
continues to look good.
Throttling down to maintain G forces, to maintain about 3.2 Gs
About
of
2 minutes
acceleration.
remaining in the boost phase of flight.
Now 2 minutes remaining for that first stage firing.
The
at
vehicle is
that.
now 45 miles in altitude, 70 miles downrange, traveling at 5,500 miles per hour.
Sounds good. Vehicle is continuing traveling downrange. All is looking good on board the vehicle. Absolutely beautiful. You can see still those little chunks of ice falling off the vehicle. Like I said, you get that little bit of ice and frost forming on the outside. Most of it falls away during liftoff.
And passing 3 minutes into flight, the RD-180 is throttling down again as expected.
Some of
Engine
it does
response
stay
continues
on,
to
like
look
we just
good,
saw there.
and the RCS system is now pressurizing to flight levels.
Okay, so that second stage reaction control system, those little jets on the second stage that allow them to properly maneuver, is now coming up to pressure, so they're closing off any vent
And
valves
about 1 minute remaining
for
in
those
cruise phase of
tanks.
flight.
There's payload fairing separation.
And we've had good indication of payload fairing.
I didn't know that the
and
fairing
Centaur
separation was
4
coming there,
reactor
so I
jets.
saw all that ice come off, and I was about to say, and some transient event just happened.
And the RD-180 is
And
now,
yes, that was
throttling up
payload
as
fairing
expected.
separation.
Engine response continues to look good.
Oh, wow. Looks beautiful. Atlas V is a beautiful rocket. It really is. Now standing by
And the RD-180
that
is now
booster
throttling
engine
to maintain a
cutoff.
constant 4.6 G acceleration limit.
Okay, so now maintaining 4.6
And
G's
Centaur has
acceleration.
begun the boost phase chill down sequence to thermally condition the RL-10 for operation.
Now chilling that down for boost phase. So they're getting that
Standing
second
by
stage
for
engine
Rico
ready.
shortly.
That RL-10 now getting ready for that second stage engine ignition. And we have Bico.
And we've had BECO, booster engine cutoff.
Stand by now for stage separation. There's stage separation.
And we've had Atlas Centaur separation.
There's the beginning of that ignition.
And
Ignition
seeing
normally
good,
takes a couple
restart on
seconds
the
for the
RL-10.
RL-10. That's the pre-start
Standing by from S1 shortly.
and ignition of the RL-10.
And we have ignition for the first burn of today's mission.
Absolutely
this will be the
beautiful.
First of 3 Centaur burns for today's mission. It will last a little over 7 minutes.
I love how, because the engine is so small, you can never really notice with SpaceX missions when that engine's gimbling. But with the RL-10, you can really notice when that thing's
RL-10,
gimbling.
Operating parameters and vehicle body rates are looking good in the first part of the burn.
So right now they're
vehicle
rolling. This
continues
allows
down the
for
middle of the
more
range
even
track
thermal
now at,
dispersion along the second
120
stage.
miles in altitude, 500 miles downrange, traveling at about 13,000 miles per hour.
Absolutely beautiful. So because of how long that first stage coast is, people often ask why ULA doesn't attempt reuse. You wouldn't be able to reuse it like a SpaceX booster. That first stage flight is so damn long that the landing's it's gonna impact the ocean around 1,400 kilometers downrange, if I remember correctly. To put that in perspective, SpaceX for Starlink missions
This is
typically
Atlas Mission
impacts
Control
around
at T
or
plus
lands
5
at around
minutes 45 seconds. We just heard
640
flight
on
commentator
the
Jesse
high
Gonzalez confirm
end.
the successful completion of the early phase of today's flight, and all systems continue to operate nominally. Our next event, Centaur main engine cutoff, will occur in about 7 minutes.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you guys learned anything about the Mighty Atlas V, comment down below what you learned and I'll be sure to respond. If you guys have any questions about the Atlas V, comment down below and I will respond at letting you guys know everything you need to know about the ULA's Atlas V. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe for more content of live rocket launches, Pokemon, Planet Coaster, Minecraft, Kerbal Space Program, all the like. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.